So this week I'm going to talk about how we make sure that our children are not spoilt. I think a lot of parents, especially middle class parents, they are very worried about the fact that because the standard of living has risen and many of their children are not growing up in impoverished situations. Most of our children don't need to worry about where their next meal is coming from. They've always been in an aircon house. They've always had their own room. They've always had people to wait on them, maids to help them. So I think many parents, their concern is, am I raising a spoiled brat or not? And I don't want to raise a spoiled brat. I want to raise a child that is going to be independent and do things for themselves. And so I've got a few tips on how to do that. So I think number one, most important word that parents need to learn how to use with their children is the word no. Don't give in to everything. As much as you love the child, it's okay, of course, to help your child be happy, to spoil the child once in a while, but it's also important that, weekly, daily, regularly, that the child needs to learn no. So they want to eat this straight away, no. If you don't enjoy eating spaghetti, I'm not going to cook you a omelette or whatever it is. Hey, you eat what is in front of you. The answer is no. Or, I want this toy. No, we have already gone through the budget. Well, I want this, I want that, And second most important word, for parents to use on their children is wait. Learn to be patient. So learning that sometimes you don't get what you want and learning that sometimes you need to wait like everybody else, you need to line up. These are, I think, important things to help shape the child's experience so that they don't think they can always get what they want. I think the other idea about how to ensure that our children are not spoiled is to expose them, I think, to the realities and communities that exist in the world that do not have as much as they do. So I think a lot of parents now are very worried that their middle income kids are very sheltered. They only mix around with people of the same income level. And so I've heard many families, for example, on the weekends, they volunteer, the father, the mother, the children as well. They may volunteer at a home, at a shelter, at an old folks home, at a hospice, and straight away then the child is exposed to people who are going through challenges that they may not be going through themselves. I know a lot of parents who, when they organize trips, when they go overseas, they're not always just staying in hotels and stuff like that, but they ensure that children are exposed to poorer communities as well. I've even heard parents of teenage kids, 15, 16 years old, who send them off to actually do project work, mission work for 2-3 weeks, things like R.E.A.L International, do a gap year before their A-levels, before their university, so that they're working for a few months in an impoverished community. And I think all of these are really good ideas so that the children's eyes are open to a bigger world. And they don't think that, the bubble in which they live in is the representative of the whole world. And of course, these experiences change you. I mean, my daughter went along, for example, with my wife, who was working with an organization called World Vision, to a project trip in Vietnam. They visited a very, very poor village. She was only, I think, 12, 13 years old at the time. But when she came back, there's a big attitude change, because when you're having to live in a situation where you don't have running water, there is no air condition, and you're looking around at the fact that these people have built up resilience. Nobody is complaining about the fact that the food is very simple. Nobody complains about, hey, there's no 4-course meal or whatever it is, no ice cream, no textbooks, no iPad, no Wi-Fi. So I think these experiences need to be managed and crafted by the parents at an appropriate age. And my point is that it changes children when they see it. Most of them are morally, conscious enough to realize that they can't then adopt the same attitude as they did before. So most importantly, I think to develop a morally upright child who is not spoiled, parents need to set a good example. So again, how parents behave, how parents talk in front of their children is very important. I've seen a lot of parents where they complain their child is spoiled, but they are the ones complaining about food. This char kway teow is not nice, this kai fan is not moist, this and that. They complain about food. Whenever it rains, Astro doesn't work, there's a big hoo-ha. So the parents are not setting a good example. The parents themselves have become a bit too comfortable. They rely too much on other people helping them. They don't do things for themselves. Many families, the parents are not doing dishes, they're not doing household chores. So again, I think it's about parents setting the right model. So in spite of the fact they may have a maid, they may have help, but they make it a point to do things themselves. There's no work that is, out of bounds just because they are parents or just because they are adults. And then that way, when they clean up after themselves, clean up their own room, fold their own clothes, the children get the message that everybody needs to be part of this and nobody is, above doing work.